This video is going to focus on how to run frequencies within SPSS, but before I get into the discussion of how to do that, I just want to recap and remind you where you should be at this point. Watching this video, I assume that you have already collected your 100 responses or more from your subjects. You've input that data into Excel, and you've successfully opened that Excel file into SPSS and have input all of the variable view information as we did in the homework assignment and have discussed in class. At that point, you're ready to clean the data. I'll show you how we use frequencies to clean the data, and then also we'll talk about frequencies and how they can be used to start to understand what's happening with the data that you have in front of you. Just as a reminder, a couple of sources of information. This is the Blackboard Learn page for our class under the SPSS training, PowerPoint, and videos. You'll notice there's other videos that we had previously loaded. But very importantly here, this 2-page basic review of SPSS analysis Word document, a very valuable file that shows you how to run various analyses within SPSS. And then this one I've talked about a lot in class, this 14-page review of SPSS interpretation of output, is a very detailed document that shows how to run and why we run certain kinds of analyses, which types of variables to use, the output tables and the interpretation of the tables, and what statistics to look at within the output table. So these two documents are invaluable. I really highly recommend that you use these extensively as we move through the analysis phase of the project. In addition, in the research project, just as a reminder, we'll be using the two files that are here, the movie theater questionnaire that's here. This Word document is something you'll need for your homework assignment. You'll no longer be using this Excel version of the data. I've uploaded in the homework link an SPSS.sav file that has all the data that you'll need, but I really recommend that you print this movie theater Word document questionnaire to have in front of you as you do the homework assignments and progress through the data analysis. So that's the background. Let's talk a little bit about frequencies, running frequencies, and what we do with them. As you know from class, we can use the frequencies both to clean the data, and we can use the frequencies to start to learn about what we're seeing. So just to get started, remember running a frequency, we go to the Analyze drop-down menu up at the top. We then select Descriptive Statistics, and then Frequencies is available there. So we go to Analyze, Descriptive Statistics, Frequencies, and when we select that, remember that SPSS provides us with a dialog box asking us for more information. Really what's happening here is we're able to tell SPSS which of the variables we want to run a frequency table on. When we're cleaning the data and checking if all of the responses are correct, you'll want to highlight every single one of the variables and push it over to the middle, and then simply say OK, and it will run a frequency table for all of these variables that we've selected. This should look familiar. This is what we did in the computer lab, and if you scroll up to the top of this output, you'll see each frequency table listed for every question that we have on the survey. How many movies, or have you been to a movie in the past year, the importance of movies, number of movies per month, etc. Now you'll notice that since we've labeled, or since I put the variable view information for you, the response options are listed here with yes and no, and the question summary up here, have you been to a movie in the past year, is listed in the title of the table. Now, as you remember, we can use these frequency tables for our exploration of do we have some data input errors or some mistakes, and you can scroll through as we did in class to see with each of the tables, are all of the response options, do they make sense? What you'll typically see here, since I've cleaned up all the data, we don't have any mistakes, but as you saw from lab, there'll be some things floating here that would be mistaken data entry points that you'd be able to identify through the frequency table, and you could then go back to the surveys to fix those. So that's what we would do to clean the data. We can also use these frequency tables in order to start to understand a little bit more about what's happening with our data, the percentages of different things. Although we can run frequency tables on every variable on our survey that you see here, I like to focus in on the nominal or the categorical questions for a bit more insight. So you see here question 1 is actually a nominal question. It's, have you been to a movie in the past year, yes or no? We can see that 449 people out of 500, or 89%, nearly 90%, have been to a movie in the past year. Now, the way we interpret these tables, I guess I should back up and just clarify a few things. Of course, in this first column, it's the valid response options. The next column over frequency is how many people answered each option, and then you see down here the total. There's 500 people that have completed our survey. There's two percent columns here, percent and valid percent. Although they're identical here in this particular question, we are going to, for our purposes, focus just on the valid percent column. So you can ignore the percent column. Valid percent is where we'll focus. And then the other very useful one is the cumulative percent, and notice it adds up percentages as you go down through the response options. Now if you look here at the importance of movies, this is a scale question ranging from very unimportant to very important. It's interesting to look at these, but I don't like to look at the frequency tables as much for these scale questions. I like to focus on the nominal questions. Now most of this survey uses scale questions, so we'll scroll through a lot of those. You can review those if you'd like, but it's just important for you to understand what you're looking at in a frequency table. So I'll come down here to the bottom where we have a few more nominal variables, and we can highlight a couple of other things happening. So down here at the end, we have ethnicity, gender, and grade level as a few other nominal or categorical questions. So notice with ethnicity, we have each of the ethnic groups listed here, and this will highlight why we use just the valid percent. Now on this one, you start to notice there are some differences between valid percent and the actual percent. There are slight differences here. That has to do with the missing data, or the number of people that didn't answer this particular question. You see that there were 3 people that didn't answer the question. So the total 497 people were the number of people that actually answered this question on our survey. So we'll use valid percent, and here you see what's happening with cumulative percent. That from the African American category, there were 14.7% of our sample was in that category, and from the Caucasian group there was 76.5. Well, cumulative percent simply adds up 14.7% plus 76.5%. That's 91.1%. So you see the cumulative percent will get down to 100% by the time we get down to the last response option. With gender, you see the same pattern, and grade level, you can notice what different categories have different percentages of responses. So what I like to do is look at frequencies at the start of my data analysis just to get an understanding of what is happening. It's a great way to describe the sample population. So on your report write-up, you could describe to me what percent of your sample had different ethnicity backgrounds, gender, grade level. If you have age as a categorical question, here on this survey it's a continuous scale question, but if yours is categorical, you could describe how many students fall into each category. So that's a brief overview of frequencies. You have a homework assignment that deals with frequencies as well, but that should provide you some information. So you have this video, you have the Word document handouts, and you also have the PowerPoint slides that we went over in lab to give you some details on how to run frequencies and what you look for. So if you have any additional questions, let me know in class, but this should be helpful for you. And the next video will deal with calculating means and running ANOVAs.